Hello, everyone. All right, so welcome to DrupalTutor Live. My name is Wayne Aker. I am a Drupal developer, and I teach Drupal trainings at DrupalTutor.com. And yeah, so the weekly live stream here is, for those of you who haven't seen it, I'm building the new version of DrupalTutor.com live on the stream. So each week we just get through as much as we can get through. So far, we've created most of the content types, and we've started a bunch of work on the migrations to get the data from the current site into the new site. So we're going to be working on that some more today. Specifically, we're going to be looking at the video. We started migrating the videos last week, and we're going to continue that because I kind of got stuck towards the end of that. So we'll continue that, and then I'm going to write some custom code and show you how I can download metadata from Vimeo, because all my videos are hosted on Vimeo for the courses. So we'll download that. We'll interact with the Vimeo API with some custom code to pull that in to augment the metadata on the video media entities. And then if we have time, we'll also migrate over some of the webinar and lesson content types, because those are sort of the wrappers around the video. That's what connects the video so that students can see the video, because they're part of a webinar, or they attended a webinar, or they have access to a lesson. All right, so if you have not subscribed to the email updates, I do send out email updates every week to tell you what we're working on. So if this is the first time you're watching, or if you're watching this on recording, if you go to DrupalTutor.com/live, you can put in your email address, and then every week I'll send you an email, like on Monday, to tell you what we're going to be talking about on Wednesday, what I'll be doing, so you can decide if you want to tune in. One of the benefits of tuning in live is that you can ask questions. So if you're on YouTube, or I think LinkedIn, if you do comments on LinkedIn, they should come through. I'm not 100% sure, but because it's the first time we've done LinkedIn at the same time. So YouTube, LinkedIn, or Twitch, if you write comments, they come through, and I can answer questions in real time as we go along. All right. So be sure to subscribe there for updates. And then my typical disclaimer before we get started. So I do teach classes at DrupalTutor.com. What you're seeing now is not exactly the same as those classes. This is a live stream. I am trying to build this site. You are seeing me do it live. So it's not very polished. So you'll see me sometimes get stuck, or maybe I'll have to look things up or do things 2 or 3 times. Just a disclaimer, if you take the courses, they're much more polished, and they're a lot easier to follow than this live stream will be. But this live stream is, you're seeing how a real Drupal developer would build a site and what we'd have to go through to do something really complex like DrupalTutor.com. So yeah, all right, with that said, let's get started. Okay, so as always, we'll be working in the DrupalTutor dev stack. Now this week I am going to switch to I'm going to switch to using PHP Storm for the development work, and it hasn't been a big deal so far. We've been using the code editor, which is built into the dev stack. That's been fine so far, but it doesn't, the autocomplete and some of the other PHP checking plugins that I have for PHP Storm are much better than what we have in the built-in dev stack one. So we're going to switch to PHP Storm today, and probably for the future, because today we're finally going to be rewriting some PHP code. So it'll make a difference. So far we've only pretty much been writing YAML files, so it hasn't been a big deal. Okay, so all right. So to pick up where we left off, we were working through the video migration, and we got stuck on a couple of things. The main thing I think we got stuck on at the end is I had trouble getting the thumbnails to come through. So the videos were coming over, and I have done it. There's quite a lot of videos, so it takes about 10 minutes to run the migration. So I've actually completed it now. I solved the problems, and I have run the migration. So all of the videos have come over from the old site and into the new site. We got stuck on thumbnails, and I did some debugging work on that. And it turns out there were two problems. One, as far as migrating the thumbnails directly, I discovered, digging through the code, that thumbnails for media entities cannot be in the private file system. Like, that's just not allowed. The code assumes that they are not in the private file system. So it messes up every time. It won't show them properly. Even if you get them migrated over, they will never work. You'll never see them here. The data will be in there, but they just don't work that way, which is sort of weird. I don't know why that is, but you cannot put them in. And so the problem is the ones on the old site are in the private file system. So when they migrate over, they're still in the private file system and they don't work. Now, fortunately, you should be able to download the thumbnails from Vimeo. And so the second thing I got stuck on was, I said, why aren't these coming in automatically? Because I thought that when you put a Vimeo, I thought that the Drupal 9 already supports YouTube and Vimeo. And when you put in a URL for a remote video media, that should automatically download the metadata. So I discovered the reason why that wasn't working. And so I tried several manually last week and it didn't work. And the reason it wasn't working is because my Vimeo account, all of the videos there are hidden, and they're only designed to show up on certain websites. Particularly the DrupalTutor website. You can't embed them somewhere else. So there were two things. One, I had to turn on embedding for all the videos on this new development site because it's got a different URL, so a different domain. So I turned that on, and that got me closer, but it still didn't work because when you have it in that hidden setting on Vimeo, when Drupal calls to get the metadata automatically, the thing it does built in, if it's hidden, it doesn't pass it that referrer information that it needs in order to confirm you're coming from the right domain. And so it gives some information, but it doesn't give like thumbnail, title, and some of the stuff that I expected it to do. So there was an open issue for that on Drupal.org to try to add that refer information. It ended up that, and I will show you this in the code editor real quick because I don't think I have it on my local machine. It ended up they decided not to do it in core, that they didn't want to add that refer URL variable when they did that Embed lookup, but they said it could be done in contrib. And so there is a contrib module called Media Vimeo Domain Privacy, and it specifically gets around that problem so that it passes that referrer, and then the thumbnail comes down. So if I come back to the site and let's just take one of these. I don't think that's the right, that one's actually messed up, but that was messed up that's not the right kind of URL. I must have messed it up on the other site. So anyway, if I just add a new one of these, I think that it should download the thumbnail. Yeah. So see, it pulled down the thumbnail because I now have that module installed. Now, the thumbnails that it downloads is really poor quality. And so I'd like to get a better one than that. And also, it doesn't give me all the other information that I want. Like, for example, I want to pull down the duration and I want to pull down this transcript file. So replacing the thumbnail, the duration, and the transcript file are the things that I want to do with the custom code. All right, so let's go back. Before we do that, I will just run through, because I did not show because I had to make some corrections to this, so I did not show the version of the remote video migration that works. So here is one that works. So again, this is a little bit different than what you might be doing if you're coming from Drupal 7. Oh, by the way, if you didn't see today, Drupal 7 is, if you have a Drupal 7 site, you now have an extra year of security updates. They decided to support it for at least one more year. So congrats. If you haven't upgraded to Drupal 8 or 9 or anything else yet, you have more time. Anyhow, if you are upgrading like from Drupal 7, remember you won't be using this D8 entity. This is specifically for migrating from a D8 or 9 site to another D8 or 9 site, which is a little bit different. There's a whole bunch of plugins that are like for every entity type. So it's like D7 user, D7 node, D7 taxonomy. So you use the one of those that you need if you're migrating from a Drupal 7 site, which is what most people will be doing. They wouldn't be doing what I'm doing, which is pulling data from another Drupal 8 site. Okay, so we're using that. We're pulling these videos were node entities of type video. And I think most of this was the same. The only thing, and all of this stuff works, like pulling the duration over from the migrated stuff, that works fine. It was, let's see, I think maybe this, I can't remember if we got this before, maybe we did. This extracts like a specific parts. So I want to, I want just the URL, which is in a link field on the old site. So it's actually in like a nested array, 0 URI. So this extracts that one thing as a string and sets it in here. And then I think this is the thumbnail. So this works for bringing the thumbnail over. The thumbnail had a couple issues. We need to get the file ID, convert the file ID to the new one with the migration lookup plugin here for the target ID. That part works. Then we have the alt width, height, title. I think those are all empty for thumbnails, but they're properties on this image field. So, and then the other thing was the thumbnail doesn't have a nested array, like it can't have multi-values. So this array shift plugin pops the first one off as its own thing. That works. So actually when I did the migrations here, it saves correctly, but you can never see the thumbnails over there. So instead of doing it this way, I'm just going to run like some kind of bulk process that does the metadata update, because all those thumbnails are still up on Vimeo. So I'll just download them all again on the new site. Okay, the field transcript, this is just a file. So it pulls it over. We get that in a pseudo field, and then it's possible there could be multiple values. So then we loop over each one. I don't think in any of my cases there are, but it loops over each one, and then it does the migration lookup to convert the target ID from the old file ID to the new one. And yeah, so this works. And like I said, all the data other than thumbnail, I think it's doesn't work for thumbnail, but other than that, it all works. All right. Okay, so we have this working. And now I went ahead and ran it because I said it takes about 10 minutes to pull them all in. Let's now look. And if there are any questions, remember you can put comments in there in the whatever system you're on. And then, all right. So now let's look at the custom code to import the metadata from Vimeo This will be for adding new ones, but again, we can bulk fill some of those thumbnails for the old ones as well with this. So I already have code that does this on the current site. So I am going to open that. And do I have that open? No, I'm going to open that in another window, like off screen. So then I'll copy in the parts that are necessary, because we're going to slim it down a little bit. And also we're not going to be able just to use it exactly in the same format, because it's expecting nodes there, and now they're video media entities. So we're going to have to make some changes, but I've got the basic, like how to contact Vimeo and get all that data. All right, so let's make a new module for this. And I don't think I showed this before. We can use Drush to create a new module. Drush has a generation command, Drush gen. So you can do like Drush gen module, and it'll go through this wizard. So this one, I want to call it DrupalTutor video will be the name of the module. And just so that it matches, because I'm going to make it match what I used to call it on the old site. The machine name is DT_video. And we will need a module file, because we're going to have to hook into the save process. So we're going to need like a pre-save hook. We don't need an install file. We won't need a libraries YAML. We don't need a permissions YAML yet. An event subscriber, I don't think so. Plugin, no. Controller, no. Settings form, no. I'm going to set the settings. There will be settings for this, specifically the API key for accessing my Vimeo account. We're going to set that in settings PHP. I'm not going to create a configuration form for it. I mean, if I was going to distribute this, or if I was going to give it to a client or something, I would build it a configuration form so they could put it into the site. But actually, something like that, I mean, it really, you shouldn't have it in your config. It should be only set on like the production site. So it's better to put it in your settings PHP or your settings local PHP or something like that. All right, so let's see. Okay, so I generated it. Oh, so this, I'm gonna have to download this, I think. Sorry, so I generated that actually on the dev stack, which is remote from my local machine. So I have to download this. This is set up so that when I edit things, it automatically uploads it though. Okay, so yep. So it created this info file, and it created a module file. It could have created some other things if I had asked it for controllers and all that stuff like that, but I didn't need that. All right, so let me look here. I think what I want to do is create, so we're going to need to implement hook pre-save, is I think what I did before. Let me just double check. Yeah, so when I save a new video, if the URL matches vimeo.com, if it's a Vimeo video, then I want to, before I save it, try to download some additional information. Now, if there were a lot of people doing this at once, it would probably make sense to queue that, like, because sometimes that operation can be slow. It takes, 5 seconds sometimes, but I'm the only person who ever posts videos on the site. So I'll just press save, and then I'll know that it takes like 5 seconds and then it saves. So it'll be okay here, but just letting you know, this may not be the best practice if you have to access an external site, which may go down or may have problems. You might want to sort of queue that for later. But okay, so we're going to do hook entity pre-save. Work. Oh, trying to remember how I have this set up. Let's see. I have some plugin here that's, oh yeah. Yeah, so I have a plugin in here that will automatically fill in like the other stuff you need, but I couldn't remember how to trigger it. You trigger it by typing hook in the other editor. Okay, so I have DT video entity pre-save. And actually this might be hard to see on the video. Let me just flip to, I think it'll be easy. Well, that's not actually easier to, I don't know if that's probably a bit easier to read. Okay, but I hate that, so I'm not doing that. If you can't read it, let me know in the comments and I'll fix something. Some of this is really like, damn, I know. Okay, so, all right, so we have this pre-save. When we save here, we will want to check if this entity is a media entity. And okay, I got one comment that says they can read it, so good. It needs to be a media entity, and the bundle should be remote video, because this is only going to apply to remote videos. I don't want to mess with images or anything else. Let me make sure that that's the correct bundle. Yeah, remote_video. Okay, so if I'm dealing with one of these, it could potentially be a Vimeo video. So now I need to, and let's see, what is the, okay, so the field where you put the URL is this one, field media embed video. Oh, my thing isn't like auto-completing for some reason. Did it do get? Oh, I know. Okay, so if that field isn't empty, then the URL is should be that. All right, and let's just make sure that that works. So I'm going to dump it out. Oh, we'll need to enable this module. All right, so let's go back to media. And actually, I haven't done anything to prevent it from doing this every time. We'll have to go back and do that at some point, but I should just be able to edit this and save it again, and it should trigger it. Okay, so you can see it does, I am getting the URL correctly. So that's good. All right, so now I need to, from that URL, go download the metadata about the video. Now I want to, so the way I've done it on the old site, and I'm going to preserve this to some degree, I'm not going to do everything, is I created a service called the Video Manager. And the reason I did that is I wanted to be able to either move my videos to different providers, or potentially support more than one provider. Like, maybe I want to have this work for both Vimeo and YouTube. And so I wanted to encapsulate the information about how to import the metadata in a way. So I created actually 3 services on the old site. Because it does support YouTube on the old site. I'm not going to do that one today, but it does support that. There's a video manager. There is a Vimeo import service of some kind. I got to look up what it's called. And then there's a YouTube import service. And the video manager uses the Vimeo and the YouTube services to then process if the URL matches the correct thing. So I would like to maintain that kind of thing because it would give me more flexibility in the future to add other providers easily and in a nice way as far as clean code way. So I need to create a new service for the video manager. So we can do this with Drush, actually. Drush gen service, I think. Nope. Oh, service custom, maybe. Okay, so the service name is going to be DT Video Video Manager. Again, I'm just trying to keep it consistent with what my old one is. And the class is Video Manager. I do have some dependencies. Oh, actually, I probably can't do the dependencies right now. All right, so let's see what this did exactly. All right, so it created a services file where this is DT Video Manager is declared, and then it created my Video Manager class here that needs to do something. Now, I do have some dependencies. These dependencies are the other importer services that I said I was going to break off. So I'm going to create one of those right now. I should have created that one first so I could make it the dependency, but I'll do it manually. So I need a Vimeo video importer. So I will call it DT Video. This is the service name. Again, I'm just going to, this is probably not the best name, but this I'll just to keep it consistent with the old one. Vimeo Video Importer. Oh, that's weird. It doesn't. Oh, module machine name. Sorry. Now I need the service name. And this class was called Vimeo Remote Video Importer. And it does need dependencies. The dependencies are HTTP client, which allows me to, which is a guzzle PHP library client, which allows me to access things on the web like an API. And then I need config factory because the API key for Vimeo is going to come out of the configuration. All right. And again, I need to download these. All right, so this set up the Vimeo remote video importer, and it automatically created my constructor for me. It also, in the services file, created the Vimeo video importer. And now the one thing I need to do is the video manager needs a copy of the Vimeo video importer. So, and in my old one, it also has a copy of the YouTube importer. And I will say, just if I was doing this like as a contrib module or like another way where I expected a lot more of these, ideally you would probably write this as like a plugin so that these importers would be an implementation of a plugin, and then you wouldn't have to pass them manually in here like this. But in my case, all of my videos are in Vimeo. I'm only going to have this one, so this is just a simpler way to do it. I don't need to invent a plugin system just to do that. Okay, so we've got the video manager. I need to add that here. And actually, I will keep one bit of sort of abstraction here because I do expect maybe to use YouTube or something at some point, which is I'm going to create an interface remote video importer interface. And the reason to do this is I want to be able to refer to all of there'll be a Vimeo one and a YouTube. There'll be a class for Vimeo and a class for YouTube. I want to have one common interface so that I can run the same code on both. And let's see. Previously, I have two methods, which I'll just copy over here. Okay, so this is one of these methods is for fetching the video from a URL. This will fetch the video information and load it into a remote video object, which is an object I'm about to create. We don't have a class for it yet. And then the other one is get the video embed code. I'm not even sure if this one's necessary anymore because we're using the media entities. We may not actually need this one. Okay, so I need this remote video interface. Let me copy those in. Okay, so I've got a class called remote video interface. And this defines a few methods. This is basically the remote video object is going to contain the metadata that we have gotten in a consistent way, because YouTube gives it to you one way, Vimeo gives it to you another way, other providers give it to you a different way. So this is going to give you one way to get it out. And then it'll be up to the video importer service to take whatever that provider does and convert it to this format so that everything works the same. I see someone says on YouTube that the image is freezing. Are other people having that same problem? Do you see my head moving around? Maybe somebody can answer if they're also seeing it frozen or if you can see me moving. All right. So I'll continue for now until I hear if someone else is having the same. Oh, okay. Someone else answers that it's okay for them. So Andy, I think it could just be some issue on your side. All right. So, okay. So this is the interface. So this will allow us to get the transcript file URL, whether or not it has the transcript file, the duration, and the stream URLs. I don't think I need these anymore. Originally, at one point, I was actually downloading the stream URLs and I had like a custom player built into the DrupalTutor website. So I don't actually think I need that anymore, but we'll leave it in here for now. And then we'll get rid of it if it turns out I don't need it. And then get thumbnail URL. That's the URL for the thumbnail. So now the basic implementation. Okay, and we got another confirmation. Joseph says it's pictures moving for him, so I think it's okay. And both of those guys are on YouTube, so. Okay, so we have remote video, and I called this remote video base. I mean, probably could just be remote video. I don't know why I called it remote video base. I guess maybe I thought I was going to extend it at some point, but doesn't really, I don't think it's really needs to be extended. So I'm just going to call it remote video. And then let me copy in. This is just a dumb data object. It doesn't really do any processing itself. Basically, it has a few properties, the primary URL, the stream URLs, transcript file URL, duration, thumbnail, all those things. They get passed into the constructor. And then there's just simple getters for all of those. So it's just a way to pass around this data in a consistent way. All right, so now let's go to the Vimeo remote video importer. So actually I'm gonna change refactor this a little bit just so it matches what I had before, so that if I copy over code, I don't have to spend too much time troubleshooting it. On my old version, I have a subfolder called service, and the services are all in there. So as well as their interfaces. So that's these 4 things. So can't remember. I think will this actually refactor my namespaces? I don't know. It did not. Okay, well, so I need to fix the namespaces. Okay, and I need to fix the services file because these are now in service. Okay, so now this Vimeo importer can implement the remote video importer interface, which is going to require it to implement the 2 methods in that interface, fetch video and get video embed code. So let me pull up my code for fetching the video. Okay, so let's go back here and look at this code. Oh, I got some other helper function in here that I need to copy over. Okay, so when we want to fetch the data from Vimeo into the site. All right, so the first thing we're going to do, get video data. That's in this. That is what's actually going to go to the Vimeo API and pull it. So let's see what that does. Hold on, I think I might be missing something here. Okay, so I need two properties, which are the base URI, which is where what we'll be hitting for the API endpoint for Vimeo, and then the access token, which is the access token that gives it access to my account. And down here we have the config factory. Yeah, actually, I don't really need to save the config factory. What I really need is a config object. And so here, but I can get that from the config factory. So I want to get a config object. And the one I used before was DT video.vimeo. So now I have the Vimeo config data, and it's got two keys in it, which are the URL and the access token. So now I have those. If I go back down here to the get video data, so I'm given a URL. In order to look things up on Vimeo, you need the ID, which if you look at their URLs, they're just like vimeo.com/a number. That number is, of course, the ID. So in this case, I'm just matching to get the number. So anything slash, however many, whatever digits to the end, because that's how that's always formatted. So that will give me the video ID. If I don't have a video ID, I can't get any video data, so we just have to return null. Here is the request to the API. So it's a GET request to the base URI /videos/the video ID. And the header includes the access token, which is what gives me access to this. If you go onto Vimeo and look at their API documentation, they would give you this endpoint for accessing the video information. So assuming that the status code is 200, that it's good, then I am decoding the JSON return, which is basically the raw data that I got back from the API. So that happens on the first line here. And then this video data is going to be a standard class object that with all that data in it. Now I've already done this work before, and this does work on the current site, so hopefully nothing has changed structurally about this. But assuming that we have video data, this extracts all of those various pieces out of it. So we have like the stream URLs. The stream URLs are down under files, and I don't know the key. Oh, I think I have the key because the quality is like 1080p or something like that. And it's written in there. So this allows me to get the stream URL. So I have like 1080p, 720p, whatever, because I had several of them. So, yep. So then I have the stream URLs. And this. Oh, I think this was putting labels. So I think the quality must be this like 1080. And then I'm sticking the number P on there. Again, I'm not going to worry about stream URLs because we don't even have fields for them anymore. But this I'm going to leave it in here. But this is basically just getting those stream URLs and labeling them properly as like 1080p, 720p. The thumbnail URLs. So this is under video data, picture sizes. So this loops through and there are multiple thumbnails you can get with different sizes. So I'm organizing them in this array by height, sorting them, and then I pop the last one off. So that's going to get me the biggest thumbnail, the highest quality thumbnail URL. And then I'm creating a Drupal URL object from that thumbnail URL. So that's my thumbnail URL. Captions. Captions are, you have to call another API. You have to make another API call for that. You get the URI for that caption. Okay, so then let's see. Yeah, so this is a URI that is the API endpoint where you can get the captions files, because there could be more than one, because you're allowed to put up like English, Spanish, have multiple translations, etc. So this is, I only ever have one. It looks like, do I even loop through them? Yeah, it looks like I just get the first one, because I know I never have more than one. So this is going to get them all by calling that URI with the base URI access token, assuming it gets it. And then it's going to loop through the data. It's going to look for captions and that are turned on and that have a URL. And then it's going to grab the first one it sees and stop. So that's going to work for me because I only ever have one. Obviously, if we had more than that, then we'd have to do something more sophisticated here. All right, and once I have all that, I create a new remote video object, just taking all that data and encapsulating it in the sort of dumb data object that I created earlier. So I think that's fine, and I don't think we need to worry about get embed code right now. I'm not even sure it's necessary anymore. I think it's only used maybe for display, and the media module is going to do that for us, so we might be able to get rid of that. So I'm just going to leave it as a to-do, because I don't think we will be calling it. Oh, maybe we will. I could be wrong about that. We'll come back to it if we are. All right, so let's go to the video manager service. All right, so the video manager service, it needs a Vimeo Vimeo importer, which is a remote video importer interface type object. We need a constructor for that. And this is already passed in because it's here in the services YAML file. So now there is a method here called import remote video, which takes a URL. And in my current site, it checks if it's a Vimeo URL or a YouTube URL. I'll take out the YouTube stuff because we're not going to do that right now. But if it's a Vimeo URL, then it should call the video importer for Vimeo. So here is how it detects if it's a Vimeo URL. It looks, does it have vimeo.com in the URL? So if it does, then it's a Vimeo URL. It'll use the Vimeo importer to fetch the video, which is the function that we just went through in the Vimeo importer. So that'll return the remote video object. All right, let me see if we have anything else here. There is also get remote video embed code. Let's come back and see if we actually need that one. All right, so the only other thing I have over here is since this is a service, it's best practice. We don't really need to do this. There's no technical reason we need to, but we should have an interface for this service, so we can have like video manager interface. And we only have the one method that is that matters here. Let's see. This is remote video. Oh, I moved this to the wrong place. This should be still here and should not have service on it. Did I forget service on something else then? No, okay. So yeah, so now it finds it, remote video interface, fine. And the remote, yeah, we looked at this before. Okay, so all right, so I think that's like the guts of the system. So I'll clear caches. We are going to need to add the credentials. Now I'm missing one piece. I'm actually going to have to log in quickly to the server. I copied the access token, but I didn't know I had the base URI in there. I missed that before. So I need to, so in another window here that you can't see, I'm going to see exactly what I have set for that. Oh, okay. So, all right, so we'll load in, or I'll show you. So I put an example here in settings.local PHP for the access token. Now you see I just have a bunch of access here. I'm not going to show you my access token. What I've done is I've actually created another file on the server, which I am not going to open up, that's got my credentials in it. So there is, it's outside of the web directory. It's a settings.credentials.php, and it's going to override these with the actual values. Now, in the case of the URL, it's probably fine. I mean, the URL is not private information. I think actually the only reason I may have had this, I think there may be like a testing URL or something. I think that's the only reason I've even made this overwritable. But it's api.vimeo.com and then the access token. So that access token is sitting in settings credential. It's basically this exact same line, except with the real access token in it. So that's how I'll get my configuration in there. And so I think that is enough. We need to go back over here to the pre-save. So in the pre-save, we have the URL, and just make sure I don't yeah, I'll try to move my head more, everybody, since so you can make sure you know that I haven't frozen. Okay, so so in here we will need the video manager, and we can get that with Drupal service DT video manager. And we can type in that so that it will work here. Video Manager interface. So Video Manager, import remote video. It takes a URL. And then it gives us a remote video object. And now I'm going to copy this in. And then we'll clean it up a little bit because we don't have, some of the stuff has changed in the new site. So, all right. Okay, so right here's where we were. We got a remote video. If the remote video is not null, then we need to go through and take the data that's in the remote video and put it into the Drupal format to store it in the media entity. So, okay. So what I'll do is we'll check the thumbnail, then we'll check the transcript file, we'll check the duration. I'm going to skip this. We don't have the stream URLs. And we don't have YouTube either. So I'm going to delete those, but we're going to pull in the thumbnail, the transcript, and the duration, assuming that we have that data. So, by the way, there is a plugin that I have for PHP Storm called EA Inspections, something else in there, EA something inspections, that tells you when you could be doing something better. So for example, this is valid code that I have here, not empty remote video get thumbnail URL. However, it's saying it would be better if I just did null, because that's really what it's going to be. It's not going to be empty anything else. So and then it makes it really easy to convert it to the better thing. It has a lot of really good suggestions. So if you use PHP Storm, I highly recommend that plugin. Like I said, it's EA Inspections. And there might be another word in there too. Okay, so if we have a thumbnail URL, then I need to fetch and save the thumbnail URL, which I had another function to do. Let me copy that function in. And we might need to do some work on this because we want to make sure we're in the correct like private versus public file systems and everything. All right, so this fetching a remote file and saving it to Drupal, file get contents can pull down the URL. We could use Guzzle or something as well, but I think I must have just chosen this because it's easy. Then we need to, so this function requires a URL, a directory where we're going to save it, and the file name that we're going to use. So we'll use the Drupal file system to prepare the directory. This will create the directory or modify the permissions if it's not writable in order to be able to write the file. That's what this will do for whatever directory we're going to store the file in. Then the file name, what am I doing here? I think I'm getting only, I'm attempting to determine the file name from the URL. I'm not sure that this would not work for every file name. This looks like it would only work for one as long as they don't have extra periods in them. As long as they're just like something.jpg, then it would work. As long as there were no other periods in the file name. But I guess that's what I did. I think it'll be okay for here. Then we get the extension using path info PHP function. And so I'm building a new, why did I even get the file name? Yeah, I'm not totally sure what I'm doing here. file name base. Yeah, this appears to actually, yeah, that's why it doesn't matter. Okay, it appears that all I'm doing is like just getting the extension, and then because I want to be able to pass a new file name. Yeah, that's what it is. Because I want these stored as like thumbnail and then like the ID or something, which I think doesn't work, by the way, because we're using a pre-save. And I think that's why I had this in here. Okay, file save data is deprecated. I think the replacement, if we go look at it, is to use the file repository interface write data. Usually you can like find that in here. Okay, so data destination replace, does that match how the other one worked? Data destination, okay. Yeah, and replace. So it's basically the same. So I need, what is the actual name of this? Service. File repository interface. Let's just pull this up real quick because I need the service name to pull it up in my code. Okay, so it's file.repository. Yeah, so this is deprecated code. This is a good thing to look at. So this is code that would actually work right now with Drupal 9, but it's code that would not work with Drupal 10. So I do not want to write code that's incompatible with Drupal 10 right now because we're almost, well, actually Drupal 10 got pushed to August. Maybe we'll launch before August. I kind of doubt it, but maybe. So I don't want to, in any case, I don't want to write any code that's not compatible with Drupal 10. So let's get the file repository, Drupal service file repository. And then file repository write data. It takes the exact same arguments, I think. So I think that's all we have to do to upgrade that so that it works in the Drupal 10 way. All right, so we get the thumbnail. Assuming it has a thumbnail, we save it as, okay, this we have to change because it can't go to the private file system. So I'll save it to like media thumbnails in the public file system. This also does not work. And I know this actually, all of my files on the current site are like video dash, and then they get some random number put after them because it's renaming them as they get saved there. Because this isn't a pre-save, it doesn't have an entity ID yet. So I don't know. We can't really do anything, really. We'll just call it video thumbnail, and then it should rename each one. Like video thumbnail 1, 01, 02. It should just rename as necessary. Okay. So that's going to save the file. If the file is there, it's going to set the field thumbnail, which is this is not the right thing. It's now just called thumbnail with that file. Okay, the transcript works in a similar way. We're going to fetch, because again, it's just a URL that it has. We're going to fetch that remote file. Again, we cannot do this. Let's call it video transcript. And this one is okay in the private file system because it's just a regular file field. So we don't have any weird thing about it. Field transcript, I should just make sure that's still the correct field name. Yep. And then duration. So a duration. First of all, is it field duration? Yes. Okay, so duration field object has two sub properties: the interval, which is a number, and the period, which is like second, hours, minutes, days. And so the remote video has the number of seconds. So we will put in the video duration here. And then I just point out a message saying that I have successfully imported this data. So theoretically, this is enough. Let's clear caches and see if it works. I mean, it'll be a miracle if it works on the first try, but there was a lot of copying code, so maybe. So, okay, so again, we didn't check. We're still not checking. We're still doing this on every time, so we should be able to just edit and save this one and have it work. Okay, so notice that the duration is 0 and there's no transcript. Okay. All right, so I'm passing the wrong kind of URL to video manager is Vimeo URL. So let's so this is expecting a URL object. Is that what oh yeah. So I need to wrap back here. This URL right here is just a string. Actually, I can't get like a, yeah. So it really needs to be a URL from URI. That would turn it into a Drupal URL, which I think would then be compatible with the rest of the code. I shouldn't need to clear caches, actually. Okay. Well, I broke the thumbnail, so something happened. Okay, so I got the number of seconds. So that came in. The transcript came in, which if we open it up, it is the correct transcript or a transcript. I assume it's the right one. Okay, so what happened to the thumbnail? So if I want to look at devel, which will allow me to dump out this object, let's see what the status of the thumbnail is. So it's got an ID. Let's look in the database and see where that file is supposed to be. 2249, is that the old one? Should have looked before I did the import. Well, it broke, so it's probably not the old one. Oh, it's broken because I don't have an extension on the file name. So let's go look at how that didn't work. So, oh, yes, this is a problem with Vimeo. Because Vimeo, the URLs for their thumbnails don't have like .jpeg on them. So my little trick here of trying to get the extension doesn't work. So maybe I need to put in something here like if empty extension. I'm pretty sure it's a JPEG. I mean, that's kind of a hacky workaround, but I think it'll work for this. Let's try again. So we should just, again, should just be able to edit this and save, and it should do the re-import. We'll fix that in a minute so it doesn't do it every time, but okay. So now I have this, it shows up, And let's see, if I open the image in a new tab, if I get rid of the styles, yeah, so you can see it's actually quite it's a reasonably big size file. So that is much bigger than what you get initially. You only get like 180 by 180. So this is just being resized down by image styles. Okay, so I think that's working. I think the only thing we need to do is stop it so that it doesn't do it every time. So we have a couple things we could do. One, we could only do it if the thing is new. I don't want to do and I'll show you how we would do that. We would say, okay, if this is not empty and if the entity is new, that would mean it doesn't have an ID. It hasn't been saved before. That's a reasonable way to do it. The problem is if you save it and then want to generate it again, you don't have an easy way to trigger the re-download. Like if something fails, you have to make a new one, or you have to delete it and make a new one. So what I did before is, because I know that these are all going to get durations, is I checked to see if the duration was set. And if the duration is set, then I don't download. So I'm gonna stay with that because that's been working pretty well. So then I'm just gonna check here if if there is a URL and if the field duration value is empty. And we can tell right now if it runs because it's dumping out. So let's just, so if I save this now, it shouldn't have that dump. Yeah, and there was no extra message saying it downloaded either. But if I were to go in here, let's say I wanted to trigger a re-download, just deleting the duration should be enough. Yeah, and now it says imported data from video service. Here's the dump. So that was enough to trigger it. So that's pretty good. That's what I've been doing on the other site. It gives me a way to just re-download if something fails. All right. So yeah, so that's pretty good. We got the Vimeo stuff imported. Any questions? That's a good point. If there's any questions or any related things you'd like to ask about. Okay, so what I want to do right now is I want to create a way to bulk update these because I only really need it after this migration, but because all the thumbnails are broken, I want to fix them. So let's do that. And then I think we have just enough time, maybe about 15 minutes. That's about how long this will take. So I want to create a Drush command that will go through and do this. So, all right. So I don't have one. This is going to be new stuff because I don't have one that does this now, but I want something that will basically go through all of the videos and run this again on them. So there is, if we want to create a new Drush command, there is a Drush generator for it. I don't remember what it is, but there is a way to do it. Let me just... If you run Drush gen, that'll tell you everything it can do. So Drush gen DCF, Drush command file. We'll put it in DT video. Okay, so let me download the things that were just generated. Okay, so here's the command file. So the way the Drush commands work, and this is different before if you've looked at it, like older Drush, like in Drupal 7 or something, it worked differently, but there's one command file per module, and then you can specify the different commands as methods in here, and you specify the arguments and options that those commands have as the using these annotations to the method. So they give you an example here. In this case, this command name, it doesn't matter what the method name is, because the command is defined here. That's what the Drush command would be. This is what the alias for it would be, the short alias. And then it has any parameters would be, I thought the parameters would become, yeah, the parameters become arguments, but then the last one, I guess, can be an options array too. So options are if you want to have dash dash something. So, okay. So let's say import videos. We need a video manager. I'm actually going to move some of the code we have to the video manager because like it's in a kind of a bad spot now, but so we need a video manager interface, and the constructor, I think this has to have a parent male. I'm not sure if it does, but okay, so and Drush commands, I need to download at a higher level here. Drush commands are defined in their own YAML file. It's Drush services YAML. The syntax here is the same as the regular services one, so you can do arguments, DT video manager. Okay, so we got a video manager injected in here. So import video. Let's make an argument for, let's make an optional argument for the media ID. That way I can just do a test with one of them instead of, and then, but if we don't pass that in, then it does all of them. So we're not going to have any options, I don't think. So I'm just going to get rid of that. All right, and so this will be okay. So we can create the command name in the file. Oh, we don't need this here because we got rid of it. All right, so in here. Okay, we don't need this. Let's just clear this out. This is an example. All right, I need to move some of this stuff to into the video manager. So I want to move most of this. Let's just copy this into video manager. And let's see, what do I need in order to save the metadata? Or let's just call this update metadata maybe. And then it's going to be given an entity, which we know it's going to be a media. So we can just say media interface entity. All right, now in this case, I don't want to check if this is empty. Why is this? Oh, is this just because duplicated? Because this case, I want to force it if I'm calling the Drush command. So all of this code should be fine. We should probably move this into this method. So let's take this here. Away from here, put it into video manager. And this actually doesn't need to be visible outside. So we'll say like fetch and save file. And then these have to change to okay. And this doesn't return anything. Probably shouldn't print this message out. We should be silent in the service. All right, so we'll put this in the interface as well. And then from here, we can say, oh, let's see, we're going to need a couple other things here, aren't we? Because we need to get the media entity. So we're going to need an entity type manager. Okay, and so then I can okay. Before I forget, I do need to put that in here that we also want to get a entity type.manager. All right, so there's the media storage. We can now, let's say, if MID not equal to null, then media is, let's just load this. And then okay. Yeah. So that should work for one. Let's just see if that works. So I'll run Drush CR. And then what is the ID of this? This is 16644. So again, let's go like break something here so we know if it worked. We'll put like 999 in the duration. That's wrong. So it should get updated with the correct information if this works. So we run Drush video metadata 16644. Oh, okay. I forgot to, the video manager needs to implement video manager interface. I never did that. Let's try again. Okay, so it ran. Let's see, did it do it? No. So did it even load? Let me make sure that is the correct. Yep, that is the correct ID. So it loaded. So let's go over here. Maybe when I put it in here, I must have messed something else up. Now, we don't need this. This could just be this. But that's not the problem. Let's just dump out the string and let's dump out the URL and see if that works. Okay, so it's in here. Dumped it out. So why? Let's dump out the remote video to see if it's even getting the right data. Oh, that's bad. Don't do that. Okay, that was a lot more than I expected. Let's see if it get duration. Okay, so it gets the number. So why isn't it saving it? Oh, because that's right, because it was in a pre-save before. So this isn't actually saving. Okay, so then the question is, how do I want to do this? It probably shouldn't save in here. It should probably, it could return the entity, but it's actually not necessary that it do that. So after I update it though, I need media save. So I think it's getting it fine. I just didn't save it. Okay. All right. And there it reset to the correct duration. All right. So in order to finish it up, we want to, I know we're getting close on time here, but let's do the version where it loops through everything. So we need to run a query, actually, well, we want the condition bundle is remote video. And that's probably the only condition we need, right? Because we want to run on everything. And the other thing already checks to see if it's Vimeo or not. It's already built into it. So yeah, I think. So I could go through and load each one and then do this same thing to it. Let's have it also print this out like as it goes through. So that we, and then okay, and let me put a limit on this right now, and so that we can test it without running it on everything. So we can just, let's just test it on one, whatever the first one it gets. Let's have it do it. Yeah, I mean, I guess one thing that would be nice is if it didn't, it wouldn't be nice if it didn't save, if it didn't actually update the metadata. Let me see if there's a way to do, well, I guess if, yeah, I think it's gonna, I'm not gonna worry about that. It'll be fine. Okay. Oh, do I have a, is that not just an ID? Oh, sorry. I left out the execute part. Okay, so it updated media 10.6.7. So actually, it probably will show up here because it should have updated. Yeah. So I pulled down the thumbnail for this one. That's probably, that's a very early webinar back in 2013, but it pulled down the thumbnail. So I know it worked. All right. So then all we would need to do is take that off, We don't need this, maybe not achievement, like we can put like import complete or something. And the last thing I'm going to do before I finish up is this code here is now really duplicative. So we should fix this. So we now have something that, given a media interface, updates the metadata but doesn't save it. That's what I need. So I can just take my video manager, put it here, video manager, update metadata entity. And that should be it. I'm still going to do this check for field duration because I still want that. So let's see if, wait a minute, I've got something, oh, got an extra bracket there. Let's see if this one still works. So I'll go in here, I will clear out the duration, and let's see if it imports. Okay, so I got the message, and it did import. Okay, so now the only thing left for me to do, and I won't do it on the live stream, but basically I'm going to run that, and it's going to run against all of the media entities, all the remote video ones, and import all of the metadata into the site. Okay, so that's a good place to stop. Thanks again for watching the live stream. Hopefully you learned a little bit about creating custom modules, services. We created a custom Drush command. There was a lot that we got through this this episode. And remember that if you are not already signed up, you can get the email updates at DrupalTutor.com/live, so you'll know what I'll be working on every week. And yeah, so thanks again for watching, and we will have another live stream next week.